Welcome to Emotional Sobriety, the next step in recovery, with Dr. Allen Berger and Tom Rutledge. I've just been in accidents before, and they were my fault. And so even when I'm in one this time, which is not my fault, it feels like my fault.
Accidents were always my fault because I'm not good at driving.
Yeah.
It's but I remember when you said that, immediately the first accident I've had that wasn't my fault, and I was so happy. I mean, it was like a different experience, and it's like I didn't do anything wrong, and that the other person's insurance was going to have to take care of it.
So dealing with uncertainty, which for me, it manifests
Are you
as...
sure? Are you sure you want to do that?
I'm uncertain. Just to let our dear listeners know, we're uncertain most of the time about where our podcast is going to go. I'm grateful for when, maybe Joe will come up with some beautiful theme from a book or something like that. Or, every once in a while we'll land on something really specific and we'll chew on it a little bit the night or the days before. But most of the time we're bringing what we have right here, right now in this moment when we hit record. And what we're talking about now is how to deal with times in life when there's a lot of balls in the air and we're not sure how they're going to come down. And it's terrifying. I got in a car accident a couple of days ago, so I'm waiting for the insurance company to get back to me with some determinations. Meeting somebody about a possible job this afternoon, that carries with it a tremendous amount of uncertainty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Emotional sobriety, in a sense, is about living right here, right now, living in the present.
We hate change, and we're scared to death of uncertainty. I mean, we fear uncertainty more than like I was saying to you guys before we were on the air, it's like we hate uncertainty so much that we will very often opt for a negative certainty rather than hang in there waiting for the positive. We do that with relationships. Take the relationship out back and shoot it, or for me, my history would be I would sabotage it. I don't think I was even consciously aware of it, but it's all based on fear and.
Right, because it requires an admission of our lack of control, like absolute control over our
It's more than an
circumstance.
admission. I think it puts us in that awareness. I mean, the truth is the only thing certain about life is change. The punchline to that is, as human beings, we're the only species that I know of on the planet that lives in fear of the nature of life. But that's what we do with our big brains. That's why I ended up writing that book eventually, was because I spent so much of my life just being controlled. It's not about having fear. Fear is a normal thing to have. It's like being controlled by fear. The challenge, it's not difficult to understand. It's just hard to do, which is really living in the present moment.
When I think about how our brains are something that we need to spend a lifetime kind of corralling and punching into some kind of, usable shape, I always think of that image of Slim Pickens and Dr. Strangelove riding the bomb all the way from the plane down to the ground.
Oh God, I think we get offended by uncertainty too. I don't think with that word value of humility. The truth is, acknowledging uncertainty is part of humility. We get to choose our sources of self-esteem, and actually, strangely, maybe ironically, practicing genuine humility is a source of self-esteem. I feel better about myself. I wrote a little nutshell that said, don't be too proud of yourself, of your humility, but it's a freedom to be able to say, like, I don't really need to know. We can use the future to freak ourselves out, but we really can't, we can't predict it.
This is such an important topic. I mean, I shared with you guys before we started some of the stuff I'm going through that's creating a certain degree of uncertainty in my life. But, if we just step back and look at what's happening just in our society right now, with what's going on with Musk and with Trump and the amount of just turning everything topsy-turvy that we've known to rely on in terms of a government that we can count on in some way and that's going to function. I mean, and the people that show up for work and don't have jobs the next day. I mean, just imagine the degree of uncertainty they're feeling right now, right? I mean, it's, and there's different kinds, right? There's that kind of uncertainty is like, my God, I've lost my job. And I feel like I've lost it, and I'm in a Kafka novel, like The Trial. I'm for no reason other than somebody thinks it'll be more efficient for us to have less employees here that are doing all this work, which is what we all kind of know, that the paradox here is that it's going to make it less efficient. It's not going to make it more efficient. It's going to get crazier because now there's more jobs to be done by fewer people, and this whole upset and the way it's going down is not in any way making a transition that would be successful at all. It's setting it up for so much, disruption and uncertainty at all levels. And now that's at our social level. I mean, if you're one of those employees that have been let go, my God, my heart goes on to them. I've been just thinking about them. I just feel for these families and stuff, that thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs have been cut here. And people were counting on this for their whole life. They thought, my God, I got a federal job. It's secure.
The uncertainty of, are we going to have rule of law tomorrow? The uncertainty of, is your social security check going to be coming next month?
I'm working with this a lot with clients right now. To use the word acceptance, with all of this, which is emotional sobriety is essential. And I'll quote Roger Andes again. I think he got from Nathaniel Brandon, but acceptance is the first step to change anytime. It's like I learned that from him while we've been doing these things, because I definitely was one of those people that basically the connotation of acceptance was some sort of approval. It's like it's okay. So, it's like, but the truth is, the best model for us, for the three of us, is acceptance, is our acceptance of our addiction. It's like nobody ever asks us, and nor will they ask us, is it okay with you that you're powerless over alcohol? It's like, it doesn't have anything to do with it. But we're not going to get beyond it unless we fully accept it. And that's the thing here. There's so much really difficult things that we're facing that we have to accept. This is the reality right now, and we need to accept it so that we can work with it.
You brought up before, you like to lower the bar, or it's about adjusting the expectations. Now that has a negative connotation for some people.
Well, talk about fear. It scares people. Yeah.
You're switching yourself to low power mode. It's a way of protecting yourself, and especially in uncertain times or dealing with an uncertain circumstance, if we can just kind of lower the bar of expectation, that we can live comfortably inside. It's a way of staying present, right? It's like, do I have a sandwich to eat, for sustenance later on?
Well, I love mixing metaphors, of course, because that really confuses everybody. But now you're talking about lowering the bar. We're talking about we're going up a mountain road, so we downshift. We have to get into a lower gear, and it's, we have to get back to, usually when we're driving, we don't have to pay much attention to stuff because it's so automatic. But when we're driving through treacherous terrain, we go back to conscious competence. We have to go back to really thinking things through, and we're there now. We things we have. Allen said it. It's like things we have been taking for granted our entire life, and by the way, probably shouldn't have, but we have been. We can't take it for granted now, so we have to be really conscious every day.
So, Allen, you're dealing with about like with an omni crisis, like 5 different things at once. And I'm dealing with like a couple things at once. Of course, there's a time that I do set aside to curl into a ball and, just feel sorry for myself. I think we should allot ourselves a little bit of that.
Absolutely.
But then otherwise, like I'd imagine that, there's so many areas of your life, Allen, where you get to be of service to others, and you get to really, exercise some agency, in your life, and these areas that, aren't going through turmoil right now. And
Tom said something that really got me thinking earlier in this discussion, is that, when you were talking, Tom, about that sometimes our reaction to uncertainty is to try to create certainty, which is an attempt to control again.
Yes.
I want to control the outcome of this experience I'm having, right? That I don't like what I'm feeling right now, so let me try to take control. And I think oftentimes what I'll do, like in a relationship or otherwise, taking control means trying to have some kind of power in the situation. It will take power over. I will, try to make the thing happen this way, so it's what I want it to be.
As opposed to empowerment, you're talking about, it's past power over. Yeah.
I was just thinking about when you brought that up, is it is important somehow to react to or to respond to these situations, and to have what Bowen calls an active response, somehow to be able to deal with it as it is and find the best way to cope with it. But rarely is that going to be to take power over it. It's going to be to empower yourself to deal with it and to be able to, back to the serenity prayer, accept the things I cannot change, change the things I can. What can I do? What kind of, and we talk about it in recovery, is how can I find the right action, which means the action that will be appropriate and give an appropriate response to the reality that I'm facing right now. And that will give me that sense of empowerment, so I'm not a victim of what's happening. I'm somehow dealing with it, but not by dealing with it in a way that's going to make it worse.
What do I need to do to be the best version of myself I can be today? And that's going to be imperfect, but there. But in this situation, what you're talking about is we asked that question very specifically. What in this circumstance, how can I be my best self? Because we do, I always make it clear. It's like we point out to people what they don't control all the time. We don't control much. We control, ourselves, our mind. But the truth is, that doesn't mean we don't influence one another. And it doesn't mean we don't influence. We problem solve and hell, we influence people for a living. But you influence by changing yourself. You don't go. It doesn't work from the outside in. It works just like that ripple effect. I always say the first step to giving is receiving. So whatever it is I need to be, and AA says it in the terms of you can't give away what you don't have.
That's right.
That's where we have to come back to ourselves. What do I need right now to be a better version of me? And it's almost never. I need to control something.
That's true. No, that doesn't play out very well, does it?
And we have lots of examples, right, Alan?
Lots of examples.
I can tell you example after example of how that doesn't work.
How do we deal with uncertainty and still keep, ourselves grounded and not get caught up in the anxiety? Because that's the other thing that comes with uncertainty for me, is the experience of anxiety I have. Like, this will be catastrophic. Something bad is going to happen.
Well, what I've been taught is to take action, some kind of action, right? In the face of a feeling of paralysis, right? Is to just get moving. But there's something to be said too for sitting in the feeling, right? And just kind of experiencing it.
It's back to this thing. If I try to now bring certainty to a situation that's uncertain, and I do it in a way, but let's say I'm having trouble in a relationship and I just say, to hell with this relationship. I don't want to tolerate this uncertainty about where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Is that the most appropriate response given what's going on? Now, maybe, I'm not saying that you stay in a relationship all the time if it's not working. And I think there's times when we have to, what my good friend Zoe Williams calls stick the dismount. Right, is to be able to dismount the relationship and get out of it, and get out of it in the best way possible. But I think there's other times where it's really important to hold still, like you're saying, and tolerate that anxiety and learn to endure some of that discomfort. And that's not an easy thing to do. It's not easy for me to do. I don't think it's easy for many of us to endure that kind of a discomfort. It shakes me to my very foundation at times when I'm in that place. And so, that's where supporting ourselves comes in. And so important is, how do I get a hold of myself when I'm in that place and start to use the jelly roll mantra? I'm not okay, but everything's going to be okay. I'm not okay. It's all right. Everything's going to be okay. See, if I can somehow keep a hold of that, and sometimes I lose faith in that, man. That's the crisis of faith, right? If I don't have faith in that moment, that somehow it's not all right, and that's okay, everything's going to be all right. it's then hard to sit with that discomfort because I start getting catastrophic. What is this going to mean? It's going to be terrible for me. I'm not going to be able to survive it. Oh my God. It goes into all of these catastrophic fantasies that are, part of what I've called the big lie is that I am less capable than I think I am. See, I think that that's a lie. I think that we're all much more capable than we give ourselves credit for. But part of that is that we don't test it. See, we were talking about, in the Thursday night class last week, in Thursday night emotional sobriety workshop, we talked about using the metaphor that Dr. David Snarch gave for holding on to yourself. That it's like climbing a mountain. And that if you focus on the mountain when you're climbing it and what's going on, you're going to wear yourself out because you're trying to control something that's out of your control. But if you learn to focus on yourself and controlling how you're dealing with the mountain, then you start to develop a sense of mastery, right? A mastery of yourself. And see, that's the same is true of life. The more I can focus on what I can do to focus on myself and to deal with things, the more I increase my sense of self-efficacy, my sense of self-confidence, my sense of self-mastery. And as those things increase, our self-esteem starts to shoot up. Because self-esteem, as we've been talking about, is the two components that Brandon identified was self-worth. Am I worthy of love? Am I worthy of success? Am I worthy of happiness? And self-confidence. Do I feel like I can handle the uncertainty that life is sure to bring about for all of us? Or when I hit it, do I do the thing we talked about, is try to make something that's uncertain and try to create a certainty in it? Now, there's nothing wrong with that if we do it in a way that is appropriate to the situation, meaning instead of trying to control someone else, to control ourselves. When that happens is, how do I now stay grounded in the best of myself? Because that's what Tom was saying. That's the most important time to bring the best of ourselves and not the other parts of ourselves that are going to be crying chicken little. The sky is falling. The sky is falling. Right. So this is a very, very important and timely topic right now, as we know that on both a personal level, for so many of us, we're going through uncertainty can you imagine if you're an illegal immigrant in this country?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Nightmare, total nightmare. Yeah.
My God, every day it's got to be fraught with, am I being deported today? Is ICE going to show up and walk into my house without a warrant and just abscond me and take me into custody and ship me back?
And adding insult to injury is that a not insignificant amount of people think that's great.
There's a ripple effect to every one of these things. They're going to show up in some way. And that's the thing that's hard to do, is to somehow embrace how interconnected everything is. We learned that with ecosystems. As we started to change some of the ecosystems, you just changed one dynamic. There was a story about, and I believe it's true, Mao Zedong, when he was the ruler of China, decided that the birds were eating too much of the crops. So what he did is he called the population to get out and with pans and spoons, create all this noise to drive these birds. I forgot what breed of birds it was away. And it was very effective at driving the birds away.
Wow.
And what happened was the insects that the birds ate started to destroy the crop. That the birds played such an important role in the ecosystems, it's not like they got more crop out of that intervention, they got less.
So in the end, what they should have been adjusting was their own relationship to this crop.
To figure out how to be in a better relationship to the ecosystem, which we're trying to embrace in our culture. But for a long time, we had the attitude, well, we'll just rape our environment and it'll somehow absorb what we're subtracting from it. And we've seen that that's not the case. There's a limited amount of fossil fuels. There's a limited amount of coal. We're going to have to look at other energy sources at some point in time. Now, maybe my generation, maybe even your generation won't feel the total effects of that, kind of what I would call, I am the master of the universe kind of attitude. I can do what I want, but somehow the universe is there for my picking. The idea we can control nature has been it's worked and it doesn't work. It's got a two-edged sword. It's been incredible. The advances in science we made, we're living longer than ever before. But at the same time, in terms of other ecological impacts that it's had, we damaged our environment terribly.
Emotional sobriety is not our resting state, not whatsoever. It's our resting state is a dependency on the world to kind of, give us what we need.
I realized through the talk that we're having today how emotionally dependent I am on certainty.
Yeah.
I think I need certainty to be a certain way for me to be okay.
Right.
See,
a story about how it's all going to work out, or that these parts of life are inflexible.
That's right. And that's part of that big lie, right? It's my God. No, I don't need the world to be a certain way to be okay, even though a part of me believes that. As I shared with you earlier, I'm going through some things that's really being pushed up into my consciousness. But this is such a great reminder of, no, I just need to be okay in terms of whatever is happening in my life is to deal with it in a good way. So let's hope that what we're sharing will help some people out there that are struggling with a terrible degree of uncertainty today, and to not try to prematurely grab certainty from a situation, but to try to do it in a way where you act for yourself without being selfish, and that you act for others without losing yourself. And if you're doing that, then you're going to find, in my opinion, the best active response to what's going on in your life.
And what's great about that, as always, the ball is completely in your court.